It started without warning, a tear in reality, pulsing with a cold, unknown energy. Similar gates began appearing across the globe, silent observers hanging in the sky over every horizon. At first, they seemed harmless. People went about their lives, treating the phenomenon as nothing more than a background curiosity. No one knew the cause, and the lack of immediate danger bred a dangerous sense of security. But as the numbers grew, so did the underlying tension. Over 20 gates had been confirmed in the nation alone. Academics scrambled to study them, theorizing about alien life and parallel dimensions from the safety of their rooftops. They had no idea they were looking directly into the mouth of a predator. Down on the ground, life was still a grind. For Han Yu-jin, the end of a shift was just another milestone in a long day. He worked harder than anyone on the moving crew, a man driven by a singular, selfless goal. He didn't mind the sweat or the long hours. Every box moved was another step toward a future he wouldn't share. His coworkers saw his dedication, tossing him water and a nod of respect for his relentless pace. Yu-jin was the kind of man who would break his own back to keep the people he loved standing tall. All those earnings, every cent was earmarked for his younger brother's college tuition. He had dropped out himself, sacrificing his own education to ensure his brother never had to struggle the way he did. To Yu-jin, his brother was everything, the one bright spot in a life defined by manual labor. He would show off the kid to anyone who would listen. Tall, handsome, and brilliant, the perfect success story.
The pride in his voice was unmistakable, even over the noise of the job site. He would ramble about his brother's perfect grades and how the kids still called him Hyun after all these years. He was his brother's biggest fan. He was already planning a celebration, a simple barbecue to reward the kid for another semester of hard work. On the other side of the city, that brother was just trying to get home, his hands steady despite the strange energy in the air. The commute was routine, but the atmosphere on the bus was shifting into something heavy and suffocating. Above the skyline, the blue glow of the gate began to flicker, changing into something far more violent. Yu-jin was still on the clock, riding in the back of the truck and oblivious to the atmospheric shift. He was busy keeping the mood light with his team, unaware that his world was about to end. Then his boss pointed it out. Something was fundamentally wrong with the sky. The blue gate had turned a bruised, bleeding red. It looked ominous, like a wound about to burst open. Yu-jin tried to stay positive, even joking that it might be some kind of blessing in disguise, but his gut was already turning. The air felt charged, metallic. The color wasn't just changing, the very fabric of reality around the gate was fracturing like glass. The red light intensified, spiderwebbing across the atmosphere in a terrifying display of power. Then came the impact. A sound like a thunderclap that nearly shook the moving truck off the road. They thought it was a collision, some reckless driver hitting them from behind in the panic.
Yu-jin hopped out to check the damage, expecting a simple fender bender and an insurance claim. Instead, he found a nightmare, a massive avian monstrosity with red eyes and a dripping, jagged maw. The terror was immediate and paralyzing. This wasn't supposed to happen. The creature didn't belong in this world. It was a predator from a void that humanity wasn't prepared to face. Before he could even process the threat, the beast lunged with impossible speed. The truck was torn apart like wet paper. This wasn't an accident. It was the beginning of an invasion. Chaos erupted instantly. Screams for help were drowned out by the screeching of monsters and the sound of rending metal. Yu-jin stared in paralyzed shock. The harmless gates had finally revealed their true purpose. In the reflection of his own eyes, he saw the end of the world as he knew it. These were dungeons, and they were vomiting death into the streets in droves. The sky was filled with them. The phenomenon had a terrifying new name, a dungeon break. When a gate is left unattended, it reaches a supersaturation, and then it bursts, letting the monsters through. The city became a slaughterhouse. Tens of thousands were dead or injured within the first hour of the shock. Eugen's boss was pinned at the mercy of one of the flying beasts. Eugen couldn't just stand by. He grabbed the first thing he could find, a piece of scrap wood, ready to die fighting for the people who had been kind to him. He was outmatched and completely human, facing down a creature from a nightmare. But he wasn't the only one pushed to the edge. Sometimes survival triggers something deeper. In the heat of the slaughter, a surge of power erupted from the boss's wife. A blinding blue light signaled a change in the human genome. She didn't just fight, she overpowered the monster with superhuman strength, her body evolving in real time. This was the awakening. Humanity was forced to evolve or go extinct. These newly awakened individuals would become the world's new shield, hunters, a new occupation for a broken world. The era of the dungeon had begun, and with it a new hierarchy of power where only the strong survived. Amidst the rubble and the fire, people watched in awe as the first true heroes emerged from the civilian ranks, but none were quite like the ones standing on the bridge, surrounded by the charred remains of the invaders. Pitch-black flames licked the air, consuming everything they touched with a terrifying absolute heat. Eugen's brother, Han Yu-hyun, had awakened as the world's first S-rank hunter. The world was burning, and he was the one holding the torch. 8 years have passed since the world changed, and Seoul has become the epicenter of a new, brutal reality. It started with a question only a few could answer: the status window. A digital interface etched into the retinas of the awakened, invisible to everyone else. For people like Choi Yumi, it felt like being dropped into a video game. Skills were no longer fiction, they were tools for survival, displayed clearly for the user to master. With a single thought, she could manifest nature itself, turning a concrete jungle into a literal one. These abilities turned ordinary citizens into heroes who could save lives in an instant. But the origin of these powers was a dark one. 8 years ago, Yumi was just another person struggling to find work during the dungeon shock. She awakened her vine growth skill out of desperation, using it to rescue those trapped in collapsing ruins. It was a stroke of luck that changed her life, or so she thought. She became a professional hunter, joining a small guild to raid the dungeons appearing across the city. The incentive was simple: money. Everything inside a dungeon is a resource waiting to be harvested. High-rank dungeons are gold mines for S-rank hunters, the elite few at the top of the food chain. Among them, Han Yu-hyun stands alone, a high school student who awakened into a god-tier class. He went from a poor orphan to the world's youngest guild leader, followed by a sea of cameras and flashing lights. At 25, his wealth is beyond comprehension. He is the ultimate success story of the hunter era. But for every Yu-hyun, there are thousands of Yumis. For an E-rank, getting rich is a fantasy. She just wanted to pay her siblings' school fees. Small dreams in a high-stakes world. The dream ended abruptly. A newsflash announced her death during a routine raid. Despite the healers and the hospitals, she couldn't be saved. This is the side of the industry the cameras don't show. The drinking, the despair, and the constant fear of being the next headline. Under a bridge in Seoul, a new gate flickers to life, humming with deadly energy. The raid is about to begin, but the mood is far from heroic. The mercenaries are on edge, and they've found an easy target to vent their frustrations on. They're demanding to know why a useless addition was brought along for this raid. Meet Han Yu-jin, F-rank, known as the nurturer but treated as nothing more than a burden. He's practically begging for a spot in the dungeon, promising buffs just to be allowed to enter. To the other hunters, he's just cheap labor, the bottom of the barrel. Rumors follow him like a plague. They say he's a jinx, a parasite who survives while his entire team gets wiped out. They pull up articles on their phones, mocking his personal life. They cross a line when they mention his brother, Han Yu-hyun. The star doesn't even visit him in the hospital. Yu-jin snaps. He might be weak, but he won't let these thugs mouth off about his family. His eyes burn with a quiet, dangerous fury. The D-rank hunter, a guy named Sioku, just laughs it off. He enjoys the reaction. A brutal kick to the gut sends Yujin sprawling. In this world, rank is everything. Sioku hoists him up by the collar, making sure everyone sees the difference in their power. To a D rank, an F rank like Yujin is less than human. He mocks Yujin, telling him to go cry to his famous brother if he thinks life is unfair. Yujin coughs, clutching his chest. The physical pain is nothing compared to the humiliation. But while he's down, he's not just hurting, he's working. The guild leader approaches, putting on a show of sympathy for the cameras or the crew. He uses a minor skill to strengthen Yujin's body, a temporary fix for the beating he just took. He acts like a benevolent boss, but his words are laced with condescension. He tells Yujin to know his place, to hold back and let the real hunters do the work. Yujin looks up and smiles. It's a submissive, grateful mask that hides his true intent. He thanks the leader, playing the part of the pathetic F rank to perfection. A firm handshake seals the deal. The leader thinks he's just secured a loyal dog. Yujin tells him he's the only one who recognizes his value. Inside, he's already won. He pulls away, leaning on his crutches. Suddenly, the guild leader's attitude shifts. He snaps at the bully, defending Yujin with uncharacteristic ferocity. A new window appears. Subject influence confirmed. Guild leader Lim Se-woo has been added to the list. The manipulation is complete. With his target under control, Yujin limps toward the gate. He has a skill that makes him the most dangerous man in the room. Deep inside a standard D-rank dungeon, the air is thick with the scent of damp earth and static mana. Low-level monsters like these cave bats are usually just target practice for experienced hunters. A few well-placed spells and some heavy shielding are all it takes to turn a swarm into a pile of loot. The party moves forward with a dangerous level of confidence. In their eyes, this is just another routine run with zero risk. They laugh about the dungeon shock they felt back when they were rookies, mocking the very idea of fear. In a low-rank zone like this, magic stones are the only thing that matters, pure profit with minimal effort. The haul is decent, even D-rank stones add up when you're clearing hundreds of them in a single afternoon. But for some, the dungeon isn't a playground, it's a labor camp. The high rankers take the glory, while the F ranks do the dirty work. Han Yujin finds a small stone, but even this scrap of hope is immediately snatched away by the greed of his peers. He's told to keep mining or starve. To the others, he's barely human. He's just a tool to maximize their margins. The humiliation is constant. They treat him like a jester, a servant, someone beneath notice. Yujin hums a bitter tune to drown out the insults. He's the Cinderella of the hunter world, but there's no fairy godmother coming to save him. Every strike of the pickaxe is a reminder of how far he's fallen and the life he was forced to leave behind. It started years ago. While he was stuck in the mundane world, his younger brother awakened as a god among men. He tried to warn his brother to protect him from the dangers of the dungeons, but his words carried no weight. While Yujin was away serving his country, his brother built World's Edge, the strongest guild in the nation. The gap between them became an unbridgeable chasm. One was a national hero, the other a ghost of the past. Desperation is a powerful motivator. Yujin couldn't stand being left in the shadows while his brother reached the summit. He prayed for his own awakening, hoping for a miracle that would put them back on equal footing. He fell for the lies of a broker, spending everything he had on the promise of an S-rank awakening. Instead, he got the lowest grade possible, F rank. The world didn't show him mercy. The media crucified him, labeling him a parasite who was trying to ride his brother's coattails. Debt piled up and his reputation was shredded. Every mistake he made was broadcast to the world as a failure of character. He was brought low, kneeling in the dirt, surrounded by the evidence of his own incompetence. The shame was suffocating, especially when he looked into the eyes of the person he cared about most. His brother didn't look at him with love or concern. There was only cold, hard disappointment. The words cut deeper than any monster's claw. He was told he was nothing but a weight dragging everyone down. Even when he was crippled in a dungeon, his brother refused to help. No healers, no sympathy. The mandate was clear: live quietly and stop being a burden. The hunter world had no place for a broken F rank. He was cast out, left to rot in the silence of his own failure. The sound of his crutch hitting the floor was the final punctuation on a life that had lost its meaning. Back in the present, Eugen accepts his role. He is the parasite. He is the incompetent one. He wears the mask of a loser because it's easier than fighting back. A pathetic grin is the only defense he has left. He's been thrown away, and he's learned to live with the trash. He watches his brother's back from a distance, a reminder of everything he will never be. Survival in these dungeons shouldn't be possible for someone like him, but he has one secret. It's a skill most would call useless, a title that sounds more like a hobby than a weapon. He is a nurturer, an ability meant to influence and support those around him, rather than fight for himself. He spent his life raising his brother, pouring everything into someone else's growth. He used his friendliness to open hearts, acting as the grease in the gears of more powerful teams. A simple keyword like cheer up is all it takes to trigger his influence. He provides small buffs, minor boosts to growth that most hunters don't even notice. It's the bare minimum support of an F rank. He never thought this skill would be his salvation. He was just trying to be useful in a world that didn't want him. But in moments of total annihilation, when his teammates were being slaughtered around him, something changed. He survived when he shouldn't have. It wasn't luck, and it wasn't because he was hiding in the back. There is a dark, hidden side to the Nurturer title, a skill designed for the worst-case scenario. Suddenly, the system interface flashes. A skill he hasn't seen in years is activating right now. His heart hammers against his ribs. The timing makes no sense. This is supposed to be a safe D-rank run. He feels the mana surging through his limbs, his stats doubling in an instant. The air around him begins to vibrate with raw power. The light is blinding. He can feel himself getting stronger, faster, more lethal than he's ever been.
This is the final requital, the ultimate insurance policy for a support class. But the power comes with a heavy realization. He's sweating, trembling, because he knows what this means. His pickaxe drops. The surge of strength is a death knell for someone else in this cave. He scrambles through the dark, his injured leg barely keeping up with his new, frantic pace. The skill allows him to temporarily double and use the abilities of those under his influence. If they are fast, he becomes twice as fast. If they are strong, he becomes a titan. It's the reason he's the only one who ever walks out of a massacre. But it's an unlucky skill, a cursed advantage that only triggers under one specific condition. The targets of his nurturer influence have to be removed from the board. He sees the faces of the people he was just working with, now marked for deletion by the system. He steps into a puddle of warm, thick blood. The silence in the tunnel is more terrifying than any scream. Final requital only activates when the subject dies. The power he feels is fueled by the lives of his comrades. The boss of his mining crew is down, his life extinguished in an instant by something far beyond their level. Eugen's eyes widen as he realizes the scale of the disaster. This isn't a D-rank dungeon anymore. A desperate plea for help echoes through the cavern, but it's already too late. A nightmare made flesh has invaded the zone. This is Rauktar's, the poison and cursed Dragon King. Hunters are being torn apart like paper. There is no defense against a rank 1 entity in a low-level crawl.
The arrogance of the party has been met with absolute carnage. They blamed Eugen for being an ominous guy, and now they're paying the price in blood. The slaughter is systematic. The dragon isn't just killing, it's erasing them from existence. Rauktar's is a rank 1 dragon, a creature that shouldn't even exist in this part of the world, let alone this dungeon. It is an unkillable force of nature. As Eugen stands amidst the wreckage of his team, he realizes he's the only thing left between the dragon and the exit.
A rank 1 dragon in the middle of a D-rank dungeon. This is a tactical nightmare. A creature like this shouldn't even exist here, let alone be hunting a low-rank mining crew.
Eugen stares death in the face. He's outclassed, outgunned, and cornered in a place where no help is coming.
The Rauchtars isn't just a monster, it's a catastrophe. Every instinct in Eugen's body is screaming at him to move, but the pressure of a high-rank predator is paralyzing. It lunges. The speed is impossible for a creature that size, turning the cavern into a kill zone in a split second. Desperate, Eugen triggers the skill he inherited from his fallen boss, body strengthening. It's his only play to survive the next 10 seconds. He forces his broken body into a sprint. The skill doubles his physical output, but even at maximum capacity, he's barely staying ahead of the dragon's shadow. His mind races, calculating every possible exit. In a dungeon this size, there aren't many places a man can hide from a dragon. He spots a narrow opening in the ruins. If he can wedge himself in there, the dragon might not be able to follow quickly enough for a lethal strike. The monster strikes before he can reach cover. A massive tail swipe tears through the stone pillars like they're made of glass. Eugen is caught in the shockwave. The force of the impact alone is enough to shatter bone, even with his defense skills active. The dragon isn't done. It lets out a roar that shakes the very foundation of the dungeon, announcing the inevitable end of its prey. Eugen tries to brace himself, but the power gap is too wide. He can see the beast preparing for a final, crushing blow. The tail whips around again, a blur of scales and raw muscle designed for one thing: total annihilation. He's sent flying across the cavern, his body skipping across the jagged floor like a stone. The pain is blinding. Blood spatters the ground. This isn't a fight anymore, it's a slaughter, and he's the only one left to die. He gasps for air, coughing up blood. Every breath feels like he's inhaling broken glass. He's reached his limit.
The Rauchtars looms over him, eyes glowing with a cold, predatory intelligence. It knows he's finished. In his final moments, the memories of his crew bleed into reality. He sees the boss trying to save them, failing just as he is failing now. He remembers the desperation, the screams, and the absolute helplessness of being a low-rank hunter in a world built for the elite. The dragon's strike is a blur of red and black. He closes his eyes, waiting for the impact that will finally end it. The blood of his comrades is all he can see in his mind. The cycle of failure is complete. Eugen collapses, his vision fading. He can't even crawl away anymore. His legs are completely unresponsive. The dragon opens its maw, preparing to incinerate whatever is left of the man on the floor. The heat is unbearable. He stares into the throat of the beast. This is the end of his story, a forgotten casualty in a D-rank hole. He waits for the fire, for the darkness, for anything to stop the agony of his broken body. The dragon roars, a deafening sound that signals the final execution. Eugen flinches, bracing for the heat of the dragon's breath to consume him. A massive explosion rocks the cavern, but the fire doesn't reach him. Something has intercepted the attack. Through the smoke and dust, a figure stands tall. Han Yu-hyun, the S-rank brother he thought had left him behind, has arrived. Yu-hyun doesn't look back. He steps between his brother and the dragon, his presence alone shifting the atmosphere of the entire dungeon. Eugen can barely believe it. His brother is actually here, standing in the middle of a disaster zone for him. The Rauchtars doesn't care about ranks. It sees a new threat and prepares to engage with everything it has. Eugen activates his signature skill, Blue Willow Leaves. Glowing blades of mana manifest around him, sharp enough to cut through reality itself. He moves. It's not a run, it's a blur of S-rank efficiency. He's engaging all three heads of the dragon simultaneously. His blade ignites with a dark violet energy. This is the pinnacle of human evolution, a hunter who can stand against a rank 1 disaster. Every strike is calculated. Every movement is a masterclass in tactical combat. He's carving through the dragon's scales like they're nothing. The sheer power on display is terrifying. Eugen isn't just fighting, he's dominating the battlefield. Eugen watches from the dirt, mesmerized and terrified. He's seeing the true gap between an S-rank and the rest of the world. But something is wrong. Eugen is being too defensive. He's staying too close to Eugen instead of taking the fight to the beast.
The dragon senses the weakness. It ignores the hunter and aims its poison breath directly at the injured man on the ground. Yuhin sees it coming. He has to choose between a lethal counterattack or protecting his brother. He chooses the protection. He burns his mana to manifest a giant shield, absorbing the toxic blast that would have turned Yujin to ash. The poison is potent. Even through the shield, the corrosive mist begins to eat away at Yuhin's armor. Yujin screams for him to move, to fight properly, but Yuhin won't budge. He's anchored by his brother's weakness. The dragon seizes the opening, slamming its massive claws into the hunter. Yuhin takes the hit full on, refusing to let the shockwave hit Yujin. Blood drips from Yuhin's sword. He's taking damage he shouldn't be, all because he's acting as a human shield. Yujin realizes the truth. His presence isn't just a burden, it's a death sentence for the only person who came to save him. Yuhin continues the onslaught, but his movements are becoming strained. The dragon is wearing him down by targeting the hostage. The violet flames flare up again as Yuhin tries to end the fight quickly, but the dragon is relentless. Yujin looks up, expecting comfort, but he finds only a cold, furious glare. His brother is angry, but the words that follow cut deeper than any claw. Yuhin demands to know why he keeps coming back to dungeons, why he can't just stay away and live a quiet life. He looks at the blood-soaked floor and the broken men around them. To Yuhin, this is just another mess he has to clean up. The resentment in his voice is palpable. He's tired of being the protector of a man who seemingly wants to die. Yujin's heart sinks. He came here to prove something, to find a way to stand on his own, but all he did was drag his brother into the mud. Yuhin tells him to get to the corner and stay out of the way. It's a command, not a request. Yujin realizes that in his brother's eyes, he's nothing more than a liability, a piece of baggage that's finally starting to break. He wonders why he even expected a warm reunion. In this world, weakness is a sin, and he's the ultimate sinner. The dragon prepares for another charge. The cavern is lit by the glow of impending death. Yujin looks at his broken legs. He's finished. There's no more running, and no more pretending he belongs here. He reaches for his weapon, a broken sword that looks like a toy compared to the S-rank gear his brother wields. Yuhin's eyes widen as he sees what his brother is about to do. For the first time, the hunter looks truly afraid. Yujin makes a choice. If he is the reason his brother is going to die, then the solution is simple. He tells Yujin to run, to leave him behind and save himself. The dragon is already closing the distance. He lets go of the sword. He lets go of the hope of being a hunter. He lets go of everything. He stands defenseless before the beast. If he dies here, the burden on his brother is finally lifted. He thinks about the funeral, the guilt, and the freedom his brother will finally have. It's a twisted sacrifice, but it's all he has left to give. The memories of their childhood flash by, a time when they were just brothers before the ranks and the system tore them apart. The dragon lunges. Its jaws are wide, a tunnel of teeth and shadow designed to swallow the world. Yujin closes his eyes and waits for the end. He's ready. He's sick of the struggle, sick of being the anchor. A massive burst of violet energy erupts, but it's not an attack. It's a desperate, frantic surge of power. The cavern is consumed by the blast. The sound is deafening, a roar of mana that dwarfs the dragon's own voice. Silence follows. Blood drips onto the cold stone floor, the only sound in the aftermath of the explosion. Yujin opens his eyes. He's still alive. He doesn't understand why. He looks up and his heart stops. The world around him is a ruin of fire and ash. Yuhyun is standing right in front of him, but he's not fighting anymore. He's been impaled, his body acting as the final shield to keep the dragon away from his brother. Yuhin and I, we were all each other had left in this world. After our parents died, the silence in our home was deafening. I was the older brother. I was supposed to be the pillar, but even at the funeral, he was the one looking out for me, making sure I was holding it together. He'd ask if I was hungry, his small hand gripping mine like a lifeline. Now, in the depths of a rank S dungeon, he's still the one worrying about me. Blood is everywhere. His blood. The nightmare I can't wake up from. Behind him, the Rauktar's looms, a titan of flame and scales, the butcher of this raid. My hands are useless. My heart is a drum of pure, vibrating panic. He's gasping, telling me the monster's patterns. He wants me to hide. He's planning my survival while his life leaks out onto the cold dungeon stone. I remember every bitter moment. The hospital stays he never visited, the way he pushed me away, treating me like a nuisance rather than family. I thought he'd grown cold. I thought the S-class power had burned away his humanity. He reaches into his coat, pulling out a glowing amber stone, a gate stone, my ticket out of this grave. He forces it into my hand, his fingers slick and trembling. I tell him he needs to use it. We need to get him to a healer before it's too late. He just leans into me, his strength finally failing. He tells me it's no use. He knows he's already gone. His hand slides down my shoulder, leaving a trail of warmth that feels like a curse. Yuhin, no! Don't you dare leave me like this. I'm an F-rank miner. I'm nothing without him. The light in his eyes flickers out, and the world goes silent. Then the system screams. A title I ignored is triggering. Nurturer's additional skill. Final requital. Duration 1 hour. A vortex of mana erupts, blue light tearing through the shadows of the dungeon. The abilities of the deceased Han Yuhin are being transferred to me twofold. It's not just power, it's his memories, his pain, his everything flooding into me. I feel the surge. It's violent, overwhelming, and terrifyingly perfect. The dragon thinks it's won. It's about to face a nightmare it can't conceive. You dumbass, why did you have to carry all of this alone? I can feel the mana burning in my veins, twice as intense as anything an S-class should handle. I grab the spear, the weapon vibrating with the echo of his soul. For the next hour, I'm the strongest thing in this dungeon. You really protected me until your very last breath, didn't you? The Rauktar's roars, but its voice is nothing but noise against the fury in my head. I don't just charge. I move with a grace and speed that defies the laws of this world. I strike with everything he was and everything I've become in his absence. I'm faster than it can track, faster than death itself. I'm twice as strong as the world's greatest hunter. One strike, one kill. The Titan falls. As the power flows, so do his memories. The truth starts to leak in. He kept me away because hunters aren't protected by the law. He made himself the villain so I wouldn't follow him into this nightmare. He was fighting a war on 2 fronts, and I was his only weakness. Every cold word was a shield he built to keep me from this life. Every time he pushed me away, he was trying to save me.
He was just a kid himself, carrying the weight of the world to keep me safe. He watched over me from the shadows, even when I was at my absolute worst. He took the hits so I wouldn't have to. He instructed his guild to keep me out, to make me hate the world he lived in. He played the part of the arrogant S-class perfectly. And he cried in the dark, apologizing to a brother who would never hear him. He just wanted me to live a normal life. That was all.
The rain starts to fall inside the crumbling dungeon ruins. The dragon is dead. The hour is almost up. I'm sitting on the corpse of a legend, holding the only person who ever truly loved me. You dunce! You should have just told me the truth. I was so blinded by my own resentment that I never saw your sacrifice. He's cold. The mana is leaving me, and the reality is setting in. The poison gas is filling the room. I don't even care anymore. Then the system rewards window pops up. An impossible feat achieved. Legendary title. Dragon Slayer. Rewards are flooding in.
And the grand prize, a wishing stone. It can grant any one wish. Any wish. My heart hammers against my ribs. I scream at the system to bring him back, to reverse this death. But it's impossible to bring a dead person back to life.
The system is binary. Then what's the point of all this power? I could use this to become the new hero, to stand at the top of the food chain. I could have the fame and the honor I spent years envying from the gutters. None of it matters without him here to see it. I don't want the future. I want the past back. Turn back time, before the dungeons, before the awakening, before the lies, before he had to become a monster just to keep me safe. The system asks for confirmation, a complete regression. Yes, take everything, just give me my brother back. I close my eyes as the light consumes the world around me. I wake up with a gasp, my lungs burning as if I've just finished a marathon. The air is clean, no blood, no poison gas. This office, it's the Hyon Guild headquarters. I check my hands. No status window, no borrowed S-class mana. I look at my phone. 12:18. It's really 5 years ago. This is the day I went to that awakening broker, the day I hit rock bottom. I remember being dragged back here, pathetic and desperate to belong. Wait, if the timeline holds, then he's about to walk through that door. I hear footsteps approaching, heavy, familiar, and very much alive. The handle turns. This is it. I hold my breath, terrified this is just a dying hallucination. Then I hear his voice, scolding me for my reckless behavior. Yuhyun, he's standing right there, in the flesh. He looks so young. The weight of his guild hasn't crushed him yet. I don't even wait for him to finish his lecture. I'm back. I'm really back. He's stunned, completely frozen by the sudden contact. I bury my face in his shoulder just to make sure he's real. I'm sorry for everything I put you through in that other life. I was such an immature brat. I didn't see the burden you carried. He thinks I've caused more trouble, that I've finally lost my mind. He's barely 20 here. He shouldn't have to be a savior for everyone, and he shouldn't have to face the darkness alone anymore. As your older brother, I should have known what you were going through. I tell him he doesn't have to worry about me anymore. I'll be different. He doesn't understand, but he stops fighting the hug. He hugs me back, his guard finally dropping just a fraction. The relief is better than any skill I've ever felt. I have a second chance. I won't waste it on jealousy or hate. We were brothers like no other, and I'm going to make sure it stays that way. I love you, Yuhyun, more than you'll ever know. But then, a system window appears in my vision. Han Yu-jin has been registered as an awakened. Wait, what? This wasn't supposed to happen. A quiet kitchen, the smell of bacon, and a brother who's actually cooking. Yuhyun is acting like a normal sibling instead of the cold, distant S-ranger I remember. It's surreal. The silence between us is thick. This feels incredibly awkward, but it's a hell of a lot better than the alternative. In the original timeline, today was the day we had our final explosive fight. I ran off, and that was the beginning of the end for our relationship. But now, looking at him, everything has changed. The regression gave me a clean slate, and I'm not going to waste it. I never expected we'd be sharing a peaceful meal again. While he's focused on the stove, I need to check my new reality. I call up the status window. It's time to see exactly what I brought back with me from the future. There it is, the Dragon Slayer title, rank L, legendary, a mark given only to those who take down a Tier 1 dragon single-handedly. My mind flashes back to the dragon Rauchitas. I thought turning back time would mean that nightmare never happened, but the system remembers. An L rank title is practically unheard of. It's a tier above S rank, a level of power that shouldn't even exist yet. It's not just a label. The title comes with 4 legendary skills that blip onto my interface, glowing with tactical potential. My heart skips a beat. This is the ultimate regressor's advantage. The system has handed me the keys to the kingdom. Legendary resistance to poison, curses, and fear, plus Rauchatas's Bane, which doubles my strength against dragons. I'm effectively immune to the world's deadliest debuffs. I clench my fists. I can feel the weight of it. This could be my ticket out of the gutter. Is this how it starts? The story where the weakling returns to become the most powerful hunter alive? I can almost hear the roar of the dragon again, the sound that haunted my final moments. In the past, the S-rankers were screaming in terror, completely overwhelmed by a force they couldn't control.
The dragon's poison breath was a death sentence. It didn't just kill you, it liquidated your entire existence. Hunters were diving for cover, desperate to survive the onslaught of flames and toxins. But with these new resistances, I could have walked right into that fire without a scratch. I would have looked my brother in the eye and laughed at the poison. I would have been the one protecting him for once. I'd be the boss, the legendary hero. A complete 180 from the pathetic life I led before. The epic tale of Eugene Han the Dragon Slayer. I can already see the headlines. But first, I need to check the raw stats. I pull up the character sheet, expecting a massive jump in my physical capabilities. Stamina 6, Strength 4. Reality hits me like a freight train. These are garbage, F-rank stats. The legendary title didn't change my basic biology. The system basically tells me I'm still a weakling. An F-ranker with legendary titles is like a toddler holding a nuclear launch key. I slump onto the table. How am I supposed to use legendary skills when I have the physical power of a high school student? I'm still just my crappy old self. Maybe the L stands for loser after all. I've got some E-rank buffs for dexterity and intelligence, but they're barely an improvement over what I had before. Wait, there's more. My custodian title also upgraded to legendary rank, and just like the other one, it comes with 4 new skills. This is where my real power might be hiding. Final thanks, Super Nanny, and Who's a Good Boy. The names are embarrassing, but the ranks are undeniable. Super Nanny doubles the growth rate of anyone under my care for 3 days. All it takes is a key word.
My jaw drops. Doubling the growth rate of a hunter is a total game changer. This is how you build an empire. If I use this on Yuhyun, he'll reach levels of power that were previously thought impossible. And if I apply it to a whole group of elite hunters at once, the math is insane. 100 people watching me cheer for him would give him a 100% boost. He'd be twice as strong instantly. My brother's guild, Haiyan, would become the strongest force on the planet. I could turn every one of them into a monster. I'd be the kingmaker. I'd take the credit, sit on a pile of money, and never have to lift a finger again. Then I see the key word to activate it. My heart stops. This has to be a joke. The system wants me to say I love you to my brother to trigger the skill. I'm hitting my head against the table in frustration. Imagine me saying that to a group of random hunters. An old man? A stranger in the street? The social fallout would be catastrophic. I'd be in a jail cell for harassment before the first buff even activated. The system is definitely trolling me. Despite the rank, the activation cost is social suicide. It's practically useless in a real tactical situation. The last skill is As the Twig is Bent. It lets me see the potential grade of unawakened people. I can scout the next generation of S-rankers. Yuhyun interrupts my thoughts, clacking a pot onto the table. "Let's eat," he says, sounding surprisingly domestic. He asks if it's enough rice. I'm still reeling from the system reveal, but the smell of the food is actually incredible. I take a bite, and it's better than anything I've had in years. The taste of a home-cooked meal is a luxury I forgot existed. I tell him it's delicious, and a genuine smile flickers across his face. He's being so normal. It's unsettling. He tells me there's plenty more. He's acting like a brother instead of a guild leader. I can't help but wonder why he's doing this. I ask him why he cooks for himself when he could afford a private chef. He's rich, after all. His expression shifts. There's a weight in his eyes that wasn't there a second ago. He tells me it's safer to make his own food. My stomach drops as I realize what he's implying. People have been trying to poison and curse his food since he was a high schooler. He's been living in a constant state of siege. He explains how he refused to sell out to the megacorporations. He chose the hard path to keep his independence. I grab his face, my voice tight with anger and guilt. Why didn't he ever tell me he was going through this alone? I'm shouting at him, but I'm really mad at myself for being so blind to his struggle in the past. He's stunned by my reaction. He's used to me being bitter, not protective. He tells me not to look at him like that. This was the life he chose for himself. But he admits to one regret. He regrets that we fell out, that the distance between us became a canyon. He confesses that he distanced himself on purpose. He pretended we weren't close so his enemies wouldn't target me. I'm speechless. Every cold word, every missed holiday, it was all to keep a target off my back. I put a hand on his shoulder. He thought I wouldn't understand, that he was protecting me from a burden I couldn't carry. But he sees it now. He sees that I'm here and that I'm not going anywhere. The wall between us finally crumbles. A soft smile touches his lips. For the first time in 2 lifetimes, we're finally on the same side. He tells me to just eat up. The tension is gone, replaced by a warmth I haven't felt since we were kids. I'm so glad I went back in time. This moment alone is worth every sacrifice I've made. It's the best decision of my life. Yoo-hyun's phone buzzes. The S-rank life doesn't allow for long breaks. He has to go back to work. Before he leaves, he tells me to delete that broker's contact. He says the guy won't be picking up anymore. The tone is chilling. I realize he's already taken care of the threat, permanently. I just nod and show him that the number is gone. I tell him to take care and that I'll clean up before I head out. I'm ready to start my own journey. But then his hand slams against the doorframe, blocking my exit. His voice is calm, but the command is absolute. He looks me in the eye and tells me I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here, under his protection, no exceptions. I blink, stunned. My plans for freedom just went up in smoke. I'm not just protected, I'm in total lockdown. House arrest? You've got to be kidding me. Going outside is a basic human right, but apparently in this house, that right has been revoked. Yoo-hyun's smile doesn't reach his eyes when he tells me it's just too dangerous for me to exist in the real world. He thinks the world has changed just because we're on speaking terms again, but his definition of safe is starting to sound like a prison sentence. To him, I'm just a walking target for every enemy he's ever made in the hunter world. He's terrified of losing me, and that fear is turning him into a jailer. This isn't a request, it's an ultimatum. My new life is confined to these high-end walls, whether I like it or not. I'm not just going to sit here and wait for the bars to close on me. I'm out of here. But the exit is already sealed tight. He wasn't exaggerating about the lockdown. Movers? I didn't authorize any of this. What is he doing? He didn't just invite me to stay. He literally erased my old life and moved the remains here. My apartment is gone. This is my only home now. Now he's using my own words against me, playing the emotional manipulation card. I told him I was sorry, that I loved him, and I meant it, but I didn't sign up for a gilded cage. He thinks my forgiveness equals total consent for him to control my every move. He's completely misunderstood the situation. I'm trapped in a tower overlooking a city I'm no longer allowed to walk in. This is a disaster. My things are scattered everywhere, a mess of a life I can't even sort through because I'm too busy panicking. I wonder if this obsessive behavior is some kind of side effect from the world reset. He's not acting like the brother I remember. If I don't act fast, I'll be a shut-in for the rest of my days, totally dependent on his whims. I need to find a gap in his security. There has to be a way to slip past the sensors. I barely get the door open before I hit a literal wall of a man. This isn't just a lock, it's a guard. That glare says everything I need to know. He's not here to be my friend. Son-han Kim, an A-rank hunter and Yoo-hyun's most trusted right-hand man. He's a defensive specialist and he's standing right in my way. He's not moving an inch. It's like trying to talk to a mountain. I'm a high-value prisoner and he's the warden. My brother seriously left an A-rank hunter to babysit me? He doesn't care about my excuses or my errands. He has his orders and he follows them to the letter. The guy is a complete professional, and to him, I'm just a nuisance he has to keep contained. He puts a hand on my shoulder and the weight is crushing. The power gap between us is immense. The intimidation is thick enough to choke on.
He's making it clear that he will use force if I take one more step. I can feel the literal chills running down my spine. My body is telling me to run, but there's nowhere to go. It's the classic predator versus prey dynamic. A high-tier hunter's aura can paralyze a normal person with pure dread. I'm about to break, about to crawl back inside like a good little brother and accept my fate. Then the system intervenes. Resist fear triggers, flashing across my vision. The pressure vanishes instantly. The paralyzing dread is replaced by cold, tactical clarity. My eyes clear. I'm not trembling anymore. The hunter's aura has lost its edge. Suddenly, this A-rank monster looks more like an oversized teddy bear than a threat. The system is a powerful equalizer. My lizard brain is still screaming, but my mind is perfectly calm. I can actually think now. I remind him that detaining me is a crime, even in a world of hunters and guilds. He's not used to people talking back, especially not unawakened weaklings who should be cowering. He's losing his patience, treating me like a disobedient child. He thinks he can just toss me back into the room. I'm being manhandled, but I'm not done yet. I'm scanning for any advantage I can use. There has to be a skill in my arsenal that can turn this around. My system isn't just for show. If I can't overpower him, I'll have to outmaneuver him using his own stats. I check his information. A-rank status, but look at that potential. He could reach S-rank if he was trained correctly. If he hits S-rank, the entire balance of power in the High-On Guild shifts. He's a literal diamond in the rough. It would be a waste to let that potential sit idle. I need to see if my skills can unlock it. The system gives me the answer, super nanny. But there's a catch that makes my blood run cold. If I can get him under my custody, I can unlock a new S-rank and potentially buy my way out of this house. But the key word requirement for the skill is absolutely humiliating. I have to say it out loud. I have to tell this mountain of a man that I love him. The system is definitely a troll.
I have to commit. It's the only way to gain leverage. I have to make him think I'm insane. Here goes nothing. A little heart, a little charm, and a lot of dignity down the drain. I pour on the affection until he's visibly disturbed. It's the most effective weapon I have right now. It worked. He's so weirded out that he just wants me to stay as far away from him as possible. Tactical success. Night falls and the main jailer returns from his heroic duties. He asks how my day was, like we're a normal family in a normal house. The hypocrisy is staggering. I'm done fighting for the night. If I'm going to be a prisoner, I'll act the part while I plan my next move. He promises to let me go eventually, which is hunter speak for when I feel like it. I can't wait that long. He wants Haiyan to be the strongest guild in the country before I'm allowed to walk the streets. He thinks he only needs a year to achieve that. I know the timeline from the future, and a year is a pipe dream. His version of freedom is me on a short leash, supervised by him or his guards at all times. I can't rely on his mercy. I need my own power base, my own hunters who answer to me. I have knowledge from before the reset. I know exactly who is going to be a superstar in this world. I know every high-rank hunter before they even realize they have power. That's my real advantage. All I need to do is find them before the major guilds do and lock them into a contract. I'll be their benefactor. If I build my own faction of S-ranks, even Yuhyun won't be able to boss me around.
It's time to stop being a victim and start being a recruiter. My skill set is perfect for this. I'll start with an A-ranker, or better yet, a future S-rank that the world hasn't noticed yet. Yuhyun looks skeptical, but he doesn't realize I'm already playing a completely different game. I'm going to find someone I can sway, someone who will be the first brick in my new empire. I need someone easily influenced, someone who hasn't been corrupted by the big guilds yet. Step 1, find a way to legitimately leave this house under the guise of an errand. Step 2, find the kid in the alleyway, the future S-rank who's currently just a nobody. Let's go shopping. If I want to survive the future, I can't stay locked in my brother's golden cage. I need to strike a deal. Let me find my own A-rank bodyguard, and in exchange, I get my freedom. Yuhyun is skeptical. Finding an uncontracted A-ranker is like finding a needle in a haystack, but I have knowledge that nobody else in this timeline possesses. He looks at me with those sharp, analytical eyes. He knows I've changed. He knows I've awakened, and he wants to know exactly what I can do. He's worried that my new skill will just make me a bigger target for the vultures in the hunter world. He's right, but not for the reasons he thinks. If I tell him the truth, that I have a legendary skill that can raise S-rankers, he'll never let me leave. He'd lock me away in a dungeon for my own protection. So I feed him a carefully crafted lie. I tell him I'm just a low-tier F-ranker who can predict ranks once a month. It's a weak ability, barely worth a second glance. He lets out a sigh of relief. To him, a weak skill means I'm safe from the high-stakes politics of the major guilds. He warns me that even this skill will be obsolete soon once the association sets up official awakening centers. He thinks I'm just a temporary curiosity. I play along. I need him to believe I'm just a lucky F-ranker trying to make a living before the system catches up. The awakening centers will eventually standardize everything, making random brokers and skill-based awakeners unnecessary. That's the future everyone expects. But for me, that's perfect. The more people ignore me, the easier it is to move my pieces across the board. I give him my best innocent face. Just one chance to find an A-ranker, and then I'm off his hands. It's a win-win, right? He finally caves. He'll help me move into my own place, but he's keeping a very close eye on me. I'll take it. He thinks he's humoring his eccentric older brother. He has no idea that I'm about to build an army of high-rankers that will rival any guild on the planet. While he sees a dependent F-ranker, I see myself surrounded by the world's mightiest hunters. I won't just be a support. I'll be the one they all answer to.
The next day, I head to the Korea Hunters Association. It's time to make my status official, even if it's just a cover for my real power. The whispers start the moment we walk in. People recognize the man standing next to me. He's not just anyone. Sun-han Kim, the shield of Haiyan, an A-ranker who is famous for his impenetrable defense. Having him as a bodyguard sends a message. The crowd assumes I'm a hidden S-rank or some high-profile VIP. They can't imagine why an A-ranker would be following around a guy in a hoodie. Then the results come in. F-rank, the lowest of the low. The disappointment in the room is palpable. The whispers turn into mockery. They think I'm a pretender, a loser riding the coattails of a major guild. Let them think that. Anonymity is my greatest weapon. Now that the boring stuff is out of the way, it's time to spend some of Yuhyun's money. 1 billion won. It's a lot for an F-rank, but for what I have planned, it's just the down payment. I head to the Hunter's Mall. This is where the real power is bought and sold. The staff greets me with the kind of reverence only 1 billion won can buy. They don't care about my rank, only my bank account. They try to push flashy, decorative gear on me. Rings, amulets, hairbands. I don't need fashion, I need tactical utility. I settle for high-quality B-rank gear. Manticore hide gloves and a light fabric belt. These items significantly boost my stamina and dexterity. With these stats, I'm effectively a C-rank hunter and F-rank skin. Money can't buy talent, but it can certainly level the playing field. I walk out of the mall to find Sun-han Kim waiting by the car. He's efficient, stoic, and clearly annoyed that he's babysitting me. I don't mind his attitude. I tell him I was just doing some essential shopping. He wants to go back to the guild, but I have a destination in mind. I've got one more stop, a very specific stop that will determine the success of my entire plan. I'm looking for Yerim Park. In my past life, she was known as the Ice Witch, one of the most powerful A-rankers in the world.
She was a force of nature, but right now she hasn't even awakened yet. She's just a high schooler living with relatives after a tragedy. If I can find her now and get her under contract, I'll have a loyal powerhouse by my side before the big guilds even know she exists. The search leads me to a busy night market. It's crowded, loud, and smells like a dozen different barbecue stalls. I start asking around. Nobody seems to know a Yerim Park. It's frustrating, but I know she's here somewhere. There are more barbecue places here than I expected.
If I have to check every single one, this is going to take all night. I try to bribe Sunghan Kim with some food to keep him from dragging me back to the guild. He's not interested, but I'm starving. He doesn't understand why we're searching this specific area when there are better places near the guild. I can't tell him I'm hunting for a future legend. He mumbles something about me watching too much sci-fi. He thinks I'm chasing ghosts. He has no idea how real this is. Just as I'm about to take a break for dinner, the peace is shattered by a sudden outburst from a nearby shop. A girl's voice, sharp and defiant, rings out. She's arguing with someone, and the name she mentions catches my attention immediately. A young girl bursts out of the restaurant, pursued by an angry man with a pair of tongs. This is it. This has to be her. She's fast, weaving through the crowd with natural agility. She bumps right into me as she tries to make her escape. Up close, I can see the fire in her eyes. This isn't just a rebellious teenager. This is the raw potential of a top-tier hunter. She doesn't wait for an apology. She's already moving, desperate to get away from the life she hates. She's gone in a flash. Even without awakening, her physical stats are off the charts. I can't let her get away. I shove my food into Sunghan Kim's hands. He's confused, but I don't have time to explain. I have to move. She's incredibly fast for a normal human. If I were a standard F rank, I'd have no chance of catching her. But I'm not a standard F rank anymore. I activate the buffs from my new B rank gear. The surge of power is immediate. I tear through the market, a blur of motion that leaves the bystanders shocked. This is what pay to win looks like in the real world. I track her through the narrow alleys and crowded stalls. I can feel the distance closing. She's just ahead. I'm pushing my new stats to the limit, my heart hammering against my ribs. I call out her name. She stops, turning back with a look of pure confusion. How does this stranger know who she is? I try to catch my breath and talk to her, but she's on edge. She thinks I'm someone sent by her uncle to drag her back. She insults me and takes off again, heading straight for the main road. She's not looking where she's going. My blood runs cold. I see it before she does. A car is barreling down the street, and she's running right into its path. The headlights blind her. She freezes, paralyzed by the sudden realization of the danger. There's no time for the driver to stop. I see the terror in her eyes. If she dies here, the future changes for the worse. I can't let that happen. I lunge forward, using every bit of the dexterity boost from my gear. I grab her and pull her back just as the car screeches past. We hit the pavement hard, skidding across the asphalt. The car narrowly misses us, coming to a halt with a hiss of steam. The crowd gathers, murmuring in shock. That was a hair's breadth away from a fatal accident. I look down at the girl. She's shaken, pale, but she's alive. That's all that matters. I'm in pain, and I definitely didn't stick the landing with any grace, but I saved the ice witch. The plan is still alive.
She stares at me, trying to process what just happened. She wants to know if I'm a hunter. I tell her I can explain everything, if she'll just get off me first.
In this world, information is the ultimate currency. But sometimes, a high-end meal is the best way to open a door. I've brought a future S-rank powerhouse to a BBQ joint to begin the most important recruitment of my life. Seeing her enjoy the food is exactly what I wanted. To secure the future, I need her to trust me, and that starts with making her feel human again. I told her to eat as much as she wants. Thanks to my current position, the corporate card can handle the bill, and every cent spent here is an investment in the strongest bodyguard money can't buy. Yerim isn't just a hungry kid. She's sharp. She questions why I brought her here instead of her uncle's place. She knows that place is a dump with low-grade meat, and she's already judging my taste. She's testing me, trying to find the angle. She knows I'm connected to the High-On Guildmaster, and in her eyes, that makes me a big shot with a hidden agenda. I try a line about feeling a great force within her, but it lands flat. She's too smart for generic hero talk. If I want her on my side, I need to be more convincing. She starts to walk away, dismissing me as just another eccentric nerd. I can't let her leave. If she walks out that door, the timeline shifts and I lose my best chance at survival. I resort to a necessary lie. I tell her I knew her parents and that they helped my family when mine passed away. It's a fabricated debt, but it's the only hook that will make her stay. The lie works.
Her guard drops just enough for her to sit back down. She's lived a hard life, and the idea of someone coming back to repay an old kindness actually resonates with her. I pivot the conversation back to her future. I tell her I've seen her potential, a latent power that most people would overlook. Then I drop the bombshell. I explain that my skill allows me to help people awaken their powers. I'm not just a sponsor, I'm a kingmaker. I tell her she'll reach at least B rank, though I know the truth is much higher. I need to keep her expectations grounded while I prepare her for greatness. The offer is simple. I want to be her sponsor. With the backing of the High On Guild, she won't just be a hunter, she'll be a legend. I extend my hand, offering a contract that will change her life forever. It's a leap of faith for her, but a calculated move for me. She looks stunned. To a kid who's been struggling just to get by, the idea of becoming a hunter feels like a dream she's afraid to believe in. I can see the gears turning. Every teenager wants to be a hunter in this era, but she's cautious. I need to show her something real to seal the deal. I activate my inventory skill. It's a small flex, but in this world, visual proof of power is the most effective form of persuasion. A flash of light and a dungeon-made parchment appears out of thin air. Her eyes widen. This isn't just talk anymore. It's a high-level reality she's never witnessed up close. I tell her she'll have access to all of this once she awakens. The wonder on her face is exactly what I needed. The hook is set. She takes the contract, looking at the glowing parchment with a mixture of awe and suspicion. It's a binding agreement made from materials only found in the deepest dungeons. The terms are clear. Join the guild, keep my skills secret, and serve as my bodyguard for a year. It's a lopsided deal in her favor, but the protection she'll provide me is priceless. She finds it hilarious that a grown man needs a teenager to protect him. She calls me out on being a helpless F-ranker, and honestly, she's not wrong about my base stats. I play along with the joke, letting her feel superior. It builds rapport. But then her expression shifts. She asks if she can live on her own after she awakens. There's a deep loneliness in her eyes. She isn't just looking for power, she's looking for an escape from a life that's been weighing her down. I confirm that awakened minors gain adult status. That's all she needed to hear. She grabs the pen, ready to sign her way to freedom. I have to stop her. I snatch the pen back because she hasn't even negotiated her own terms yet. I want her to be a partner, not just a tool for the guild. She's surprised that I'm looking out for her. Most people in her life have probably only looked at what they could take from her. I start explaining the importance of reading the fine print. If she signs things blindly, she'll get ripped off by people far more ruthless than I am. I tell her she still needs a legal guardian to navigate this world, but the look on her face tells me that her current guardian is the last person she trusts. I notice the change in her demeanor immediately. There's a fear there that goes beyond simple business concerns. I ask her what she means, and the air in the room suddenly feels a lot colder. She explains that a contract doesn't matter if her guardian takes everything. To her, a guardian isn't a protector, they're a predator. She grips her skirt, her hands trembling. The trauma of her home life is bubbling to the surface, and I realize I've stepped into a much darker situation than I anticipated. Right on cue, the source of her fear storms into the restaurant. A loud, aggressive voice cuts through the chatter, demanding to know where she is. It's her uncle. He looks exactly like the kind of man who would exploit a child for a few extra bucks. His presence alone makes Yerem flinch. I try to introduce myself politely, but he doesn't care. He's only interested in exerting control, calling her a lazy punk and stomping toward our table. He grabs her arm with a violent yank, threatening her right in front of me. This isn't just a disagreement, it's blatant abuse. I reach out and grab his wrist. I might be an F-ranker, but I'm not going to sit by and watch this happen. He's shocked that I dare to touch him. He tries to intimidate me with a vulgar accusation, but I don't blink. I've faced monsters far worse than him. He tries to squeeze my arm, expecting me to crumble, but he doesn't know about the high-rank gear hidden under my clothes. My equipment stats are doing the heavy lifting. He's struggling to move my arm, and the realization that a twig like me is stronger than him is starting to bruise his ego. He tells me to mind my own business, but I'm just getting started. I look at Yerem. She's standing there, frozen, her eyes downcast. She's used to being the victim, but today, that's gonna change. I recall the information I have on her life. The uncle is a parasite who took her parents' money and treated her like garbage. It's time to bring that truth into the light. I tell her I finally see what she meant. The legal guardian she's stuck with is a cancer, and she needs to be cut free from him. I state it clearly. She's better off without this jerk. I'm not just offering a contract. I'm offering her a way out of this hell. Yerem finally finds her voice. She agrees, her eyes filling with a mixture of anger and relief. She's done being silent. She shouts the truth for the whole restaurant to hear. He stole her inheritance and left her with nothing. The uncle's face turns pale as the public spotlight hits him. The crowd starts to murmur. People are beginning to realize the monster standing among them. Child abuse isn't something people ignore, even in a world full of dungeons. The uncle loses it. He's backed into a corner and resorts to the only thing he knows, violence. He snarls at her to shut up, but it's too late. He charges forward, trying to shove me out of the way. This is the moment I've been waiting for. I need him to be the clear aggressor. I take the hit and intentionally tumble to the floor. To the onlookers, it looks like a violent assault on a helpless man. In reality, it's a tactical maneuver to destroy his legal standing. Yerem screams in shock. She thinks I'm hurt, and her concern is the final nail in her uncle's coffin. The trap is set, and he walked right into it. I stay down, letting the whispers of the crowd build. I've won the public sympathy and isolated the threat. Now I can finally take Yerem away from this man and into a future where she actually belongs. Chaos erupts as the abusive uncle lunges, but things aren't what they seem. Yerem watches in horror, fearing for the man who just tried to help her. I hit the floor hard, playing the part of the helpless victim perfectly. I roll around, making sure every witness sees this unprovoked assault. With fake tears in my eyes, I beg him to stop, painting him as the monster he is. The uncle is confused, his anger fueled by the crowd's judging murmurs. He grabs my collar, completely falling into the trap I've set. From this angle, I have full control over his balance. A subtle tap of my foot is all it takes to ruin his stance. He goes down, his weight working against him on the slick floor. His face meets the table with a satisfying, messy thud. I keep him pinned, making sure he feels every bit of the humiliation. I act surprised, while Yerem struggles to hide her amusement. Leaning in close, I drop the act and whisper the truth into his ear. I give him a final warning. If he touches her again, he's dead. Yerem is impressed, though she doesn't realize how calculated that move was.
A massive tremor shakes the building, cutting the victory short. Hunter Kim Sun-jung arrives, immediately shifting into combat mode. Civilians are paralyzed by fear as the ground literally opens up. A massive, tentacled monstrosity surges from the rift, roaring for blood. It's a dungeon break, the worst-case scenario for a crowded market area. Panic turns the streets into a death trap as the creature lunges. Sun-jung orders everyone back, stepping up to face the threat alone. He activates his defensive core, ready to anchor the front line. A pillar of energy erupts as he prepares his signature A-rank skill. Terra Shield slams into the earth, creating a massive barrier of stone. He tells us to run, but I know the limits of his defensive power. I search my memories. This monster shouldn't be appearing here yet. The timeline is shifting, and Sun-jung is in over his head. Sun-jung charges forward, attempting to draw the monster's aggro. He leaps high, aiming for the core of the mass. His strike connects, but the monster's biology is built to absorb impact. A hidden tentacle whips around, nearly catching the hunter off guard. The creature scales the wall, bypassing the main defensive line. Yerem is right in its path, the uncle having abandoned her to save himself. She trips, the distance between her and death closing rapidly. She falls hard, the shadow of the monster looming over her. The uncle keeps running, showing his true cowardice in the face of danger. Yerem braces for the end, her eyes filled with terror. A massive limb strikes down, shattering the concrete where she lay. A blinding flash of blue energy intercepts the attack just in time. I slid in, using a makeshift shield to deflect the killing blow.
I shout at her to move, snapped out of her shock by my voice. We sprint toward the nearest underground shelter, the monster's screech echoing behind. She grabs my hand, desperate for any sense of safety. I can see the fear in her eyes, but I can't let her stay with me. The shopping center entrance is ahead. Once she's inside, she's safe. She realizes I'm not going in with her and tries to argue.
I have to go back. Sunghyun can't win this fight without my knowledge. I recognize this species. It's a colony organism that behaves as one unit. Sunghyun is a pure tank. He lacks the area of effect skills needed here. He's being overwhelmed by sheer numbers, his shield only blocking one side. There has to be a way to use his power to clear the whole field. Yurim begs to come along, offering to awaken her powers now. She thinks a sudden awakening will make her a combatant overnight. I shut that idea down instantly. The risk is far too high. She's still just a kid, and I won't have another death on my conscience. An awakening isn't a miracle. It's a burden she isn't ready for. I remember the faces of those I couldn't save in my past life. I tell her to let the adults handle this and force her toward the stairs. I dash back toward the epicenter of the break, my mind racing. I need to analyze Sunghyun's current skill stats and cooldowns. 5 years of hunter experience has to be worth something in this moment. I reach Sunghyun just as his defense begins to crumble under the weight.
He's shocked I came back, claiming his shield can't cover the whole area. I tell him he's wrong. I have a plan to turn his defense into an ultimate weapon.